Welcome back to the Empower365 Podcast, where we talk to operators, entrepreneurs who are actually building businesses. Most people think solar is about installation, panels go up, systems work, done. But that's not really how it plays out. Systems break, production stops, installers disappear. And suddenly homeowners are stuck with a system that isn't working and no one to call. That's where today's guest comes in. Anthony D'Angelo is the founder of Solar Medics, a company focused on diagnosing, repairing, and maintaining solar systems after they're installed. Anthony, welcome to the show, man.
Happy to be here, Ty. Appreciate you taking the time to chat with me.
Let's start with the origin story because Solar Medics is interesting. You didn't build a company focused on installing solar systems. You built a company focused on fixing them. How did that happen?
By accident, honestly. So what happened was I originally worked for a company. So my career started in 2010-ish with a rather large company. Won't say their name for now. And then moved out to another company who more or less recruited me. That company was Energy. So I'll openly say that because it's public information that eventually they went under, right? Unfortunately, I just had bought in a house right before the announcement. So I was stuck with a mortgage and didn't know what to do. What I did was what I thought I knew how to do best was build systems. So I worked with a couple of people and I found myself with some contracts somehow, some way just through a network and got offered an opportunity, took it, did really well in it, just tried to stay afloat. And before you knew it, I realized that, hey, this actually could be something.
So you're already in the industry, training installers, seeing how systems were built, and you started noticing something. Panels were going up everywhere, but no one was taking care of them. They were breaking, and nobody wanted to deal with it.
Yeah, it's the truth. Well, here's the fascinating thing about how it all evolved, right? In the very beginning, I just thought, how do I put food on the table? Well, this my company went under and they're closing their doors. So that means that they see something in the economics that doesn't make sense, which means that more people are going to see things in the economics that don't make sense, or they're just going to be a failed business because 30% of businesses succeed more than 10 years. So what's the time horizon there, right? The industry is already about 10, 12 years old at that time, besides like the ultra infant systems that are, now probably removed at this point. But I didn't realize it really until I started doing it, right? And then I got a couple of partnerships and then that's when it really clicked because the partnerships were so obsessed with giving us projects. And I didn't realize at the time why. I thought, okay, they just have this much work. What I found out is the same people that did poorly on the install side transitioned to the service side like it was going to be any different, like that grass was going to be any greener, and they're also failing. So once someone with some technical knowledge, experience, drive, and a little bit of give a crap came into the scene, the partners that we had were so excited that they were just feeding us information. And I didn't really find this out until I sat down with them and said, like, hey, what's the pipeline and why? And they said, well, you're our number one provider. Number one provider. We just started. We're less than a year old. You're like, yeah, but you execute in this fashion. Your documentation is on point. The customers rant and rave about you guys, kind of been what we're looking for. And there's a lot of companies that are going defunct right now. And that's when it clicked. I said, oh, this is not $1 million idea anymore. This is tens, if not hundreds of millions.
One thing that people underestimate about solar is that systems are long-term assets. They sit on rooftops for decades. They fail. What are the most common problems you see when someone calls you?
I love this question. I really do. Because quite honestly, it's not okay. So we consider ourselves part expert, solar expert, part therapist. Because a lot of the times we're simply dealing with people's qualms, considerations, concerns. They're complaining about issues that quite honestly no one could resolve except for the original company or the lease provider. And we're just here to listen. So a lot of our conversations revolve around what could have been and don't really get to resolution right away. But at the same time, the team has to be empathetic because they put themselves, our team puts themselves in their shoes, right? It's like we understand they're people too. And in the past, they just haven't been treated as people, just treated as a number, treated as a sale. So, but to answer your question directly, most of the time people call about the most common thing that we hear is My original installer told me to remove and reinstall the system. It's going to cost us $500. And of course, we instill some logic and sense into them and say, well, did you get it on paper? No. Okay, well, they sold you. And that's called a predatory sale. And we're really sorry that that had happened to you, but it has. And like, this is our price. And we'll try to work with you. And we'll have payment plans. We have this. And so that's the biggest concern as far as from, I believe, like a financial perspective, because the customer is not necessarily realizing that at point of sale. Right? When you buy a roof, you know that you're going to have to replace the roof in 20 years. When you buy a car, you know that you're probably going to have to change the tires in 3 years at 50,000 miles or so. So those are expectations that are set at sale. These expectations were never set. So that's probably the biggest concern, and yeah, concern in general that the customer has expressed to us.
But I got to imagine like most people aren't fully educated on solar. They assume, hey, I got solar, it's going to work for years, set it and forget it. And I mean, how many houses do you go to where the customer is thinking their system's been working for years and you find out it really hasn't?
More times than I care to count. So a lot of the times when that occurs, they have already made 4 or 5 other stops before they find us. Typically what happens, it would just happen the other day, and it resonates with me so well because they got in touch with somebody, an owner of something, and they get the horror story, and then they say, hey, I know the guy that could help you. And then they give them my number, sometimes my direct number, which, nowadays I don't have to give out anymore. And then the person calls and they give reference to the person that gave them my information and say, oh, I understand why you're calling me so direct and what your problem is. And yes, to answer your question again directly, it's too many times. And a lot of the time it is because of defunct solar systems went through a lease provider or a financier like Dividend, and the system never got to PTO. So they never got energized and they're not producing. And this thing just hasn't been operating for the longest I've ever seen was about 6 years.
A lot of lost power and money, basically.
A lot of incentive, a lot of money. It's terrible.
You brought up like the automotive industry. That's kind of where the industry is going. That's what you see is like the real money is in maintaining these services for the customers.
100%. I mean, the unfortunate thing about this industry, and that's why we kind of consider ourselves like the white knight of our industry, because we're feeding people the truth. One of our mottos is we don't sell, we educate, right? And if you don't like what we're teaching, then there might be someone else who teaches it a little bit better or just sells you, right? But we're not here to sell you on anything. And let me step back. Let me step back into how we usually get here. It's the simple fact that a salesman, unfortunately, had told you this thing is maintenance free for 25 years, for the entire loan, for the entire lease, whatever it may be. But there's nothing in this world that doesn't need maintenance, right? Your dog needs maintenance. Your family needs maintenance. I'm sure. Are you married, Ty?
My wife needs maintenance, man.
She needs maintenance, right?
It's a fact. I know it's flush fund for her just to maintain her.
Mine too, right? And like if she's listening to this, then not in that way, baby. It's not like that. But at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is everything needs to be maintained. You need new tires, you need oil change. The gas generator needs to have its oil changed every couple months, right? So like there's nothing in this world that simply doesn't need to be maintained or replaced, like your iPhone, right? They just don't work after a while. So the same thing applies to a solar system. It's electronics, it's mechanical and structural. So there's obviously going to be things that need to be either at least inspected, but more than likely repaired or replaced. And yeah, that's why we're here.
You guys have to deal with some weather too. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, and then you have days. Perfect point, right? You have instances like in February over here in New Jersey and Massachusetts and Connecticut, where we do have locations in New York. It's the constant snow, there's so much snow load on the house between the days heating up and cooling down extremely fast. It creates ice dams. Poor installation practice reveals its ugly head during these times. It's a matter of time, right? Before something occurs. And yeah, the weather doesn't help, especially on the East Coast over here. Maybe those guys on the West Coast have it a little bit better, right? Because they're in pristine weather every single day of the week. But yeah, on the Northeast, it's brutal.
Feel like this is almost like an untapped market for you. I mean, there's been so many solar panels deployed. How big do you think this can get?
Massive, massive. As of right now, I think we're the second largest in the Northeast. We get acquisition offers now. It's on a regular basis, weekly, bi-weekly, and like serious offers. And it's just because the reality is it's a necessity at this point, right? It's um something that we can't just throw out all the systems that there are right now. Just like we can't get rid of all the gas cars overnight, right? Things have to they need to run their course, and eventually they'll find their way out. But yeah, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Unfortunately, a lot of the things have slowed down because of the current administration in office, right? But that doesn't mean that it won't be revamped when somebody else gets in there. And when we realize that our competitors out in China and in parts of Europe are beating us in the energy space because they don't have to rely on something like fossil fuels 100% of the time is yeah, painful reality that'll strike and we'll be back to square one.
I know how difficult it could be to run like a service business. You personally, you got technicians, schedulers, customer expectations. What was the hardest part about building the company?
Well, I'll tell you what's difficult on a regular basis is the simple fact that it takes a certain kind of person to team, right? Because everybody has to have the same mindset, same vision, and same goals, right? Because we're dealing with thousands and thousands of customers on a yearly basis. And as a business owner, what's difficult is that we could do installs and do 1/8 of the volume that we're doing on the service side and make more money and make marginally more money to take home, right? So as a business owner, you have to be a certain kind of person. And quite frankly, for me, I've always been a relationship person, right? I have customers that are still here since to that call me directly from 2017, 2018. They have my number because in the beginning, you don't have these Ring Central and you don't have all these CRMs. So like you could disguise your number. You have to give out whatever you have, which is like your Verizon number. And when I get a call from them, I don't push them off to where they should be in the queue. I take the call, right? Because I enjoy having those conversations with those people. And they're happy that I'm in a position that I am and that I take their calls, even this many years later. So the most difficult thing is really the financials. You have to take a real deep bite into that sandwich and say, yeah, I like the flavor in order for you to keep going.
Yeah, I still give out my cell phone number and I always tell my clients, hey, 24/7. You
Yeah.
know, because I that's just the way I grew up, that's the way I've always been. That's great, man. I mean, at the end of the day, people aren't just buying a repair. I mean, they're buying a peace of mind that you're gonna show up, do it right, fix it, and you can answer the phone. Let's take a little zoom out, man. I mean, you brought up the whole political thing and everything changes, right? Everything's cyclical. In 10 years, where do you think this is going? If you can really zoom out.
10 years is going nowhere, right? It's going to stay. So, what do I think happens in 10 years? Well, wishful thinking will say that within the next 3 years, there's a shift where, we go back to really focusing on green energy and then expand from there, right? Being that AI is so powerful right now, and, the last address the nation, Trump had said something that was pretty important to my industry, which is if you own a data facility, then you're going to have to find a way to create your own energy, right? You need to provide your buildings and your data centers with the energy it needs because quite frankly, the grid it can't handle it. What does that typically mean? That probably means you need a renewable energy source unless they figure out how to do micro nuclear within the next 4 days. So I don't think that one, it's the most cost effective. Technically, wind is the most cost effective energy resource that we have to date. And then solar's close in that list, about third or fourth. Nothing except for I think natural gas comes even close as far as, brown energy sources. So what do I think is going to happen in the next 10 years? I think that the people who understand the economics of energy are going to continue to build, and that's not necessarily stopping anytime soon. And then there's going to be multiple companies like us, right? We're already seeing it. We're seeing small mom and pop shops pop up, underbid. But the same thing, again, you said it, it's cyclical. The same thing will occur. They will start, they will stop, they will leave people stranded, and customers will eventually find someone like Solar Medics who they could trust for in the next 10, 20, 30 years.
Where do you think the technology's going with AI as it relates to solar monitoring? I mean, do you think there'll ever be like a central hub?
Yeah.
Some of these people are smart, like they're looking at their solar as like a mini power plant.
And it essentially is, right? You generate your own energy. All you need is a BSS, a battery energy storage system, in order to capture that energy and save it for later. The loss factor is really low. There's no transmission lines. It's in your basement, your garage, outdoors in a shed. Like all these things could be consolidated into a really, really small footprint. So what do I think is going to happen next is with the growth of technology and especially AI, I think that virtual power plant networks are going to be extremely huge, which is just going to require more service technicians like ours, right? So, what does a virtual power plant really look like is, me, you, and we have 50 neighbors, and everybody has a battery bank, and they're all linked up to a single substation, and AI is able to control the release of energy from batteries depending on demand in what location, right? And then transmitting that maybe even say 20, 30 miles away comes at a cost, of course, and there's energy loss. But the ability to shift energy from within 20-mile radiuses and creating these substations everywhere, I think is really what the future is going to hold for us.
You do more than just operate a company. You've got a podcast, Intrepidus Podcast. How did you get that started? Talk to me a little bit about it. I'm curious. I know the audience is curious. I think it's a
Sure.
very impactful podcast.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was
What separates you from the other guys?
it's really hard to say. We keep it real, right? Unscripted. We don't read anything at all. I'll be honest, we did in the beginning, right? We had something on a board. And then we just said, we don't need this, right? But what is it truly about? Why did it get started? Our hope and dream is really to just inspire one single person every episode to get up off their couch and stop doubting themselves and give themselves an opportunity because everyone deserves that opportunity. And I need that wholeheartedly, right? And there's some people that will make it, some people that will give up. And the honest truth is you won't make it if you give up. But if you keep trying, there's a really good chance that you will make it. And that's the brief overview of what the podcast is about. How we got started is actually pretty a funny story. Okay, well let's step back a little bit further into how I met my podcast co-host. Right, a guy named Christian that I've known, kind of grew up with. We happened to just work at the same jobs. Never went to school together anyway. He's about 5 years older than me. He started a business, and he knew this other guy, Dan Sikowski, who was my podcast co-host. And he was supposed to go to a mastermind group. Christian said he can't make it, but hey, I know this guy. He's just getting started in business, and he's a smart guy. He gives him my number. Dan calls me and says, "You want to come to a mastermind group?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I have no idea, Ty, at the time, what the frick a mastermind group is. I'm like, what does that even mean? But sure, it sounds fun. So I don't tell him this. And then I look up what a mastermind is. I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. I get there and there's about 11 guys there. I think I'm like two females. And everyone's a business owner, established, at least 10 years older than me. And I'm looking around the room and I'm like, Ty, I tell you, I was like, I don't belong here. Why am I here? So everyone's going around the room talking about themselves and it comes to me. And I'm like, I gotta say, I don't think I belong here. And Dan's like, tell your story. And I'm like, okay, I'll tell the story. Two guys in the shed, was about to lose my house, lost my job, just bought a house rather, didn't know what to do. So I started working. And here we are. We just started. We're in our second year and we made $1 million last year. And Dan's like, and? And I was like, I don't know. It didn't seem that hard. So I don't know why I'm here. And he goes, that's why you're here. He's like, because that is not easy. And I said, it's not. And I was really clueless at the time. Like I knew nothing. And he's like, no. He's like, go around the room and ask everyone who produced a revenue of $1 million in their first year in business. And nobody raised their hand. And I was like, oh, I understand. So Dan and I hit it off right there and then. He invited me to the next one and next one and next one. People started to fall off. Him and I just kept going. And then we did this event. He paid for some coaching lessons. No, it was like a webinar. It was like a 3-day webinar, really expensive. He invited some people to come over and watch it that were close to him, and he invited me, and it was fantastic. Really grateful for that opportunity. But at the end, he turns to me and he goes, "Do you want to start a podcast?" Random, and I said, "I don't know." He's like, "Yeah, we're going to start a podcast," and I was like, "Okay." I hate the camera. I absolutely despise the camera. I get nervous, but I guess I'll get over it. He's like, "Well, we're going to record right now." I said, "What do you mean right now?" He's like, "Intro video is happening right now." And I still have the video. I'll send it to you. It's terrible. The quality is terrible. I'm stuttering. We took like 15 takes. It was terrible.
Want to see it, man, because I hate the camera too, and I have a hard time watching back the podcast, but I find I have to kind of critique myself a little bit and say, this is what you're doing good, this is what you're doing bad. It's tough, right?
It's impossible. So I still don't watch my videos. However, I've never watched them. You just naturally get better at it just from doing it, repetition, repetition, repetition. And now I actually can watch it. It took me a very long time, almost 2 years, to be able to watch my own videos. And now I can. Everyone can everyone can improve some way or another. I just don't think watching is actually going to be the way to do it. And now with AI, I could just feed it and say, hey, like, tell me what I'm doing wrong. But yeah, I'll definitely send you that video if I can find. Dan, I know, has it saved because he brings it up constantly. He actually sent it to me about 6 months ago. He's like, "Remember this? How bad we were?" It's like, yeah. Now we barely even talk about what we're going to talk about. We just talk. So from there, 2 weeks later, we recorded our first show, and we did it in a barbershop. And we had this guy who was a barber. He owned the barbershop, and he also did like digital editing and did some camera work on the side. So he helped us out the first few episodes, and then that relationship kind of went away. And then we found somebody else. He said, let's just build our own studio. So we built a studio that took about 6-7 months. And then when that was finally complete, we moved in, and that's it. We haven't stopped shooting since. So yeah, it's that's the story of Intrepidus.
I find, whatever you're doing, the people that don't quit, because you're going to hit some bumpy roads, you're going to feel uncomfortable. The people that don't quit, get out of their comfort zone and just keep going, are the ones that are going to eventually succeed as long as they just stick with it, man. One day at a time, just keep winning a little bit each day.
Yeah, I have this on my wall. It's yeah, I can't show you, but it says get 1% better every day. That's it, 1%. Just like interest, it compounds.
Yep, that's awesome. All right, let's do a quick little rapid fire.
Okay.
Biggest mistake solar installers make, in your opinion?
Penetration installation errors all the time. We see it nonstop. Typically not using enough sealant, using the wrong sealant, not installing the POA, point of attachment, correctly. Those end up with leaks. Not only is it the most common, but it's the most detrimental to like the customer's well-being overall, financially and emotionally, because you see water pouring in your house, immediately your heart's in your stomach. You're like, I have a problem that I have to fix now, and it's just going to take away from all the other obligations that I have. On top of that, and I think that's worse than the financial part in most cases, but in some it's the opposite way, in that the financial burden of it all just stinks, and like there's no one to hold the bag.
Right. That's the worst, man. What about the most common system failures?
Failures. I'm not sponsored by anybody, so I guess I could drop names here. So, Solar Edge has one of the largest failure rates. So we get a lot of calls for Solar Edge systems, inverters, optimizers. You know what you could sum it up as: anything that has more components than the average has the most problems, right? So like Enphase is an independent module based system, right? So like an Enphase inverter goes underneath the solar module, and then you get one for every single module, as you probably know. And because of that, there's just more failure points, right? And that rears its ugly head for sure. And that's the most common cause is like the smaller components.
All right. Let me think of a good one. Underrated skill for an entrepreneur.
Underrated skill. Wow, that's a really good question. What is an underrated skill of an entrepreneur? Stress management, I would say. I've learned this over time and time and time again because stress management is very difficult in the beginning. But stress is just like a muscle, right? You just flex it enough. You stress about the certain thing, something like stubbing your toe. Like some people stub their toe, it's the end of the freaking world. You stub your toe 50 times, you're like, what's a toe? Right? I don't even care about this thing anymore. Take it off. The same thing applies to stress. You know, you get under these stressful moments and then you get so used to that moment that it doesn't bother you. And then you elevate to the next level of stressful moment. And then you do that a bunch of times and then that becomes easy. And before you know it, you're like, I used to be worried about the stuff down there. That's insane. But as you build that and flex that muscle, it just makes you so resilient. So I suppose resiliency.
No, I agree with you, man. I mean, I'm dealing with some stuff today, like some tough stuff, and I dealt with it 10 years ago. I dealt with it 5 years ago, and I'm dealing with it again today. And I'm like, I already almost know the outcome. I'm going to reduce my stress level, even though it's stressful, because I know what's going to happen in 6 months to a year from now. I'm going to look back and be like, you handled it. There's no reason to stress out that big.
Didn't
So,
kill you. It didn't kill you, right?
oh, it will kill you. Best advice. Last question. Best advice you've ever received.
Best advice I ever received.
I know that's a tough question too.
I've received a lot of good advice. Two things. One is try and get in rooms with the people that you want to be like, or speak to the person that you want to be like, and don't take advice from someone who doesn't have what you want to have. The other thing came from my father. Definitely not intentional. So I lost my father when I was 13. Don't have too many memories of him, but this is one of them where he came back and he came out bruised and battered because nothing of his fault. He was jumped because he was helping my mother, my grandfather. It was this whole big family drama. Anyway, he came out bloody and bruised. I was probably 9 years old, 8 years old. And I remember sitting on the steps, Staten Island, New York, and bawling my eyes out because he was just covered in blood. And the one thing he said was, oh, there's no reason to cry. He's like, remember this. I never hit the ground. You never hit the ground. And then at the time, it didn't mean anything to me, right? It's like fighting terms, don't hit the ground. Later, I applied it to, you know how they say, when you get knocked down, just get back up?
Yeah.
Why don't we just say, don't get knocked down? Take the punches and just keep rolling. Just keep moving forward. Don't get knocked down ever. Get hit in the face and keep walking forward. So that's I have applied that since to business, and it's treating me pretty well.
Awesome, man. That's a really good story, dude. That's awesome. Yeah. Those are some good pieces of advice for sure. Hey, Anthony, this has been great, man. Great conversation. I really appreciate it. Where could people go to hear about Solar Medics and Intrepidus podcast?
Yeah, for sure. www.solarmedics.com. Solar_medics is our Instagram. You can give us a call, 732-474-1794. And then Intrepidus is intrepidusmovement.com. Intrepidus Movement on Instagram and YouTube and Spotify. And we'd love a follow. And we hope that we inspire somebody, just like this podcast will hear.
Thank you, Anthony. Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Empower365 podcast. We'll see you on the next episode.